the one, the only Lone Ranger, Nathan Williams. How's it going?
It's good. It's been a long time. I think last time we did one of these videos was, I think when COVID was going on. So,
Well, so I was looking at my channel today because I did post a couple videos, and I've been trying to clean up some old, not so good videos and just make it somewhat professional. I noticed the last live stream was 3 years ago, March 21st, 2021. So I did a live video with my mom like this weekend. But
yeah,
then,
came
other
across.
than that,
That was cool.
yes. So, anyway, the purpose of this video is to talk about 270. We can sprinkle in some election content if you want. But this is actually a rare opportunity where I don't have control. I can hit in stream if I get super uncomfortable, so don't do anything weird. But I don't know what the questions are going to be. I kind of think this will be good because sometimes my ADHD, I get off in a tangent, I forget, and it's hard for structure. But also, I think you are in the mindset of, I mean, you've played 270 a long time. You'll be able to ask some questions that might spark something new. So I'm super excited. I know you're a talented player as well. And we are different leaning ideology in real life.
Yep.
And are you still in Missouri, or where are you?
Yeah. Yep. Still
Okay, so
Missouri.
we're two Missouri boys. Even though I haven't met you in real life yet, but that might be something we can do in the future. And I got to give a quick shout out before we start. Got Romeo Mendez in the comment
I.
section. What's up, Romeo? He is one of my students in my seventh grade class. So
Oh, that's awesome. There you go. Hey,
yes.
you're popular everywhere. No.
Yes. So anyway, I will officially turn the reins over to you. I think we're going to plan on going about 30 minutes, 45 minutes. We'll see what the schedule is like. But if you guys chat, want to drop some questions down, Nathan will keep an eye out for it, and he'll sprinkle some of those in. And then about the 7:40 Central Time, so about 18 minutes, I'm going to give a monthly subscription away for 270, as well as a special thing at the end. So do me a favor, and we'll say it a couple times, but put in the comment section hashtag Easter, EASTER, and you'll be in the drawing for the one at the end. So you do not have to be present, but we'll do a drawing at the end. Hashtag Easter.
Hey, you're throwing surprises, but like you said, we haven't gone over these questions. I just told you I had about 10 questions, but we didn't go over any. So which is good. I think it's better that way. It's
For
nice
sure.
to so we can. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. Let's go. Let's
All
let's,
right.
let's rock and
I'll
roll.
start I'll start kind of basic, and then we'll maybe get into more strategy. So I think some of these questions might be good for like newer players, because these kind of have some of the struggles that they deal with, but some of the struggles that you and I still see playing the game. I've been playing it since 2016, and I still see this stuff. So I guess first, what is your favorite president and vice president combo first for like single player, and then multiplayer? Now, there's a lot of options, but like, what's your number one if you had to pick in your perfect
Yeah,
world?
for sure. So I get asked this question a lot. I think it does change. So if I'm going for like the absolute, I have no idea who I'm playing against, and I want to be flexible. I still think FDR is a pretty dang good candidate. Abraham Lincoln as well, because you can play all across the board. My personal favorite to play with is George Washington. I don't think he is the strongest S tier, just because he has a pretty good weakness. But if you do not stop him from getting Texas and Old South, he is pretty hard to beat, especially with the national groups. But if I were to say, if I know nothing, sight unseen, I'm probably opponent.
Right.
That would be my answer. Do I think in a candidate draft should he go number one overall? Probably not. And then adding a vice president to him, William McKinley, really fire with the manufacturing. 60% manufacturing gives a
Yeah.
pretty big boost. Or you can give the national groups a bonus and go that way. So I would say that would be my number one. I do like any of the Republican candidates, like with a Abbott vice president, gives
Mhm.
a nice little boost. That's more for multiplayer, so you can get oil and gas and national groups.
Yeah, he boosts what gun lobby, evangelicals, and oil. Is that right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, he's good with George Washington. I think that gives him a 60 in evangelicals and gun lobby. That 15% oil and gas is nice with Greg Abbott. Yeah, I've used that one as well. When you said that, I was like, that's we maybe we think a lot more alike than we think that we do. No.
Maybe.
Okay,
So
and
what about you? I know just to turn the tables on you for a second. Who's your favorite?
so I actually recently discovered like a good vice presidential combo that worked for me, and I can't believe that like I didn't think of it. I think it works for anybody that has so of course candidates like JFK who have a swing state Old South and African American bonus. That's great. Also, Colin Powell is a great option. But I've noticed putting Grover Cleveland with them. It boosts their Old South and swing states by 15%. I put that with Thomas Jefferson, and he has I think 40% bonus in swing states and a 50% bonus in Old South with that. Plus his high tech and his ag. It works great with anybody even if they don't have an African American bonus, that extra money. I mean, with Reagan 1984, that combination is. I hope I didn't let my secret get out here because I like people ask have asked in the lounge since I've discovered that like, what's your best, and I just like don't respond because I'm like I don't want it, but I don't know if anybody else is. I've never seen anybody else play with that vice president.
I've seen a couple Grover Clevelands, but it's been I think one of them is the Eugene V. Debs, like the all
Hmm.
account. And
Go to like I love it. It's a great those are very important groups, especially in the early point in the game.
yeah, and the Eugene Debs, he plays with a lot of old school people and historical set. It may be just kind of a coincidence, but yeah, let's keep it rolling. Let's get that next question.
All right, so I guess what is your strategy for for multiplayer games? Kind of like if people are chasing you, teaming up
To
against.
win.
Yeah, well, to get more EVs than everybody else, right?
Yes. So I think it depends on the structure of the game, the number of players. There are some things that you can do to give yourself a competitive advantage. One of them is vice presidential candidates, like we talked about in the first question. They give you a slight boost. Does that mean it's like pay to win? I don't think so. It just gives you a slight boost, and that's fine. I do think that 270 has made it more difficult for me to find matches because if I create a match and someone sees that little blue icon of, hey, this person plays a lot, I don't get very many people who join my game, or I'll notice someone will, join, and then before it connects to all the players, they'll leave. So
Yep.
typically, I have to be less choosy when I'm just wanting to play a match while my kids are asleep or something. Because since we last talked during COVID, now I've got a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. So
Oh wow.
270 time is pretty valuable when I can get it. So I do a little bit of headhunting in the sense of like I try to balance out the game. I'm not so much trying to, if there's two Republicans and one Democrat, I'll join as a Democrat so that I can be it'd be 2 and 2 in a 4-player multiplayer. I also, because I make content, I try to make a connection that I can make the video about. So if there's a wall, if there's a Mondale, I might play as Reagan. If there's, some kind of weird connection, I might do that just, because it's content and you
Yeah.
never know. But I would say that generally speaking, what is my optimal multiplayer, or what was your question? Sorry, what was the strategy? I
Yes.
forgot.
Guess what's a general strategy? And of course, a lot of these questions are going to depend. Some of these are more general, and some of them are like specific. What would you do here? So I think this one's more
Yes.
general. Yeah, I think what's your general going into the
Avoid conflict. My
yes.
first, avoid conflict. So I think the number one thing that the beginner players, the mistake that they make is that they put all of their eggs in one basket, and then a saver can save up money and take their core state, or they don't know how to pivot, or they're not good at reading the room, and they could, if they just knew what was going on, they could avoid this one state where everyone's going to want. They could have pivoted and not had that conflict and just live to fight another day.
Hmm.
There's natural points of congestion, and that's the whole point of a multiplayer game. It's like Risk more so, where you've got different continents and you've got different state groups, and if you take my state, now we have a war against each other. Now we're not allies. Now we're direct competition. And so I recognize that a lot. Now I do pick my spots, and especially when I'm playing as a candidate that has a severe disadvantage, statistically, like if I'm an F tier candidate versus and I'll do that a lot to challenge myself.
Yeah.
I have to get some key states like in Arizona once in a while or in Illinois or whatever that is. But I don't stick my neck out often unless I have to, especially in the early game.
Yeah, you don't want the conflicts, especially early, can just ruin a whole strategy. So, I asked you earlier, what are your favorite candidates, vice president? What is a candidate that you hate playing against, or that you dislike playing against, just based on how they play, and of course, mind you, with a good player using that candidate, of course.
Yeah. So I think this candidate is not. It depends. It's interesting because I used to think they were overrated, and now I think she's underrated. And that's Crooked Hillary. I think if you have the right vice president, she can be right up there too with the national groups, and also just in a multiplayer match. Sticking with that theme, when she gets New York uncontested, and then you have like that's just the most frustrating thing when you're playing with a bunch of new players and they don't. It's like, hello, Earth to you. This is the person you need to target. I feel like someone like that has that strong national group slash California, New York, old AA, Florida. There's so many different paths. It's challenging, but I also like that because from a just a gamesmanship or to challenge my mind or you know when you play the game so many times, it starts to get repetitive a little bit, and so just I don't mind playing against hard candidates at all. I actually like it. But I would say Crooked Hillary is up there on the list. I like playing against Obama. I feel like I can. I used to struggle with AA battles about 3 or 4 years ago, and then I finally got over the hump, beating Jason a couple times, and it's just even if I happen to lose, I'm pretty good at pivoting away from those. So I uh I don't mind playing against any candidate. I will say in a multiplayer match, I like playing with Inflation Mary. I do not like playing against Inflation Mary. That is another candidate that is just
Just sit and
infuriating.
sit and say. It's always a money saver too, right? And it seems like the people that play as those candidates are like always like good. It reminds me of like Eric York. They know exactly how much to spend and exactly how much to save. Sometimes it seems. And I have a quick question since you brought up Crooked Hillary, and because you've been playing the game for a long time, I was playing it. I remember, when it came out in 2016. I remember getting an ad for it first time. I downloaded it, and then the rest is history. But there was a time when I guess, we can see bonuses and penalties. There was a time, and I can vaguely remember this, where we could not see those. And there's a rumor out there. I don't know if I don't know personally because I don't never experienced this. I didn't, pay for any Canada back then. I just used the free to play ones. Was there really a time when Crooked Hillary had a 50% bonus and everything?
Yes, there was. It was a short amount of time, and I think we actually might have talked about this the last time because I did not know that until you brought that up, and I had to do some research.
I heard
Um,
that on the time, and I had never seen that, because we didn't see the bonuses. But that's crazy.
yes, you could see it like in the menu, but like in the game screen when you were playing against a new candidate, you didn't know there wasn't like the little icon you could click on. Uh,
Oh,
yes, and I don't know when Crooked Hillary's stats were adjusted, but for a short time it was really, really
yeah,
overpowered.
be overpowered.
this this
50,
game this game has done a pretty good job of maintaining balance
I think.
over the years, but it started off not so balanced.
And that makes sense, a newer game. All right, so I have a feeling I know your answer to the question because I think that I might have the same one, and this one might be kind of, I guess, dependent as well. But all things considered, this might be more of a single player, but also multiplayer kind of, mindset. What is the most important bonus you think in the game? I guess starting out the game, not so much in game, because of course town and gown is important with being able to get in small states and pip those. But what do you think is a very very important bonus
Yeah,
overall for the game?
yeah. So I think there are lots of ways you can answer that. There's the most like probably influential bonus, like a crossover bonus. But I think that people should be really weary of saying like this is the most important bonus because you can win with any bonus or without any bonus. So just saying that right off the top, you do not have to have the swing state bonus. You do not have to have the African American bonus. You do not have to have the high tech bonus. But those $100,000 bonuses, especially in a neutral playing field, they just get more money per turn than the other bonuses. Now, I think manufacturing is pretty important, especially as a $75,000 bonus. And if you're playing against an opponent in a 1v1, and let's say it is, let's see here, a Bill de Blasio, like they're going to go for labor and environment. So just because you're playing with a, give me an example here, someone's got like a neutral labor and environment, that doesn't mean you can't,
Independent.
yeah, that doesn't mean you can't double pip labor and environment on turn number one, clash, or maybe they spend 200 in labor environment, one, say 50 in youth vote, and all of a sudden now you've got a cash advantage. You have access to labor. You can, So again, that doesn't mean you have to do that. Like you don't have to always go after their strongest bonus, but you have to be thinking like in this position, my candidate versus your candidate, what gives me the best chance to win? And
Hmm.
then the cool thing, because you make a move and I make a move at the same time, like sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong. So,
And that would
I go
kind of
ahead.
stole my. It was kind of a trick question a bit. I didn't expect you to say any specific thing. I would answer this the exact same way. It really depends on how the game goes. And I've won games where I've had 2, 3 bonuses before, and the other person has 7. So
Yeah,
oh,
that's just the way it goes. Real fast, if you are new to the stream, comment hashtag Easter if you want to be in the drawing for the couple giveaways that we're having at the end of the stream. We've got Bacon Flakes. We've got Sapun Leonage and Trey Collins in the comments. So thank you, Sapun.
I see him. Yeah, I haven't talked to him in a long time. Okay, so this is again. You're gonna. I feel like you're gonna say this is depending on the candidate, but I've seen this debate depending on, I guess, multiplayer, single player. But do you feel which combination do you feel is better of the big four? Do you think Texas, California is better, or do you think New York and Florida, and why?
So, with the game being updated, obviously, we had to live in that California town and gown moment for a little bit. That completely changed the landscape, and people adjusted. And I do think it would have been fun to leave town and gown in California. It totally nerfed New York, and I get why it was changed back. I also think that people have a hard time adjusting to change, and maybe um, people overreacted both ways.
Right.
So anyway, but that's kind of challenged my thought process. You know, um, Texas again. I prefer over California in multiplayer just because I feel like you can have more pivot points. You can get oil or manufacturing. Manufacturing reverse into Old South or swing. You can go all kinds of different ways. California, again, if you can get high tech and oil, that's a great bonus. That's a great core in multiplayer, but then you really don't have a third bonus you can get to easily unless you are able to get into New York. And oftentimes the multiplayer, then you're saving up money and there's someone going for Town and Gown Latino or AA.
Right.
So I prefer Texas over California. Now Florida, if you can get Florida uncontested, that's great. But in multiplayer, typically it's hard to keep Florida because it's the cheapest, and then you get pressure and you have to overspend. And I think that the Oasis, the Old South African American swing combination, is such a strong combination that it's foolish to let someone have all of those just because of the vast number of EVs, the security of getting into the ballot, especially with Michigan and Arizona and Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia, all of the AA swing crossover. Like, to me, that's probably the answer. But I will push back on people who say that New York is, not a great starting point, because it is. And Town and Gown has gotten a little bit easier to get. You don't have to have, the predictable Utah, Massachusetts. You can go. It's just a little bit cheaper since they took out Nebraska. And if you get a national group in New York, that's pretty good because you can generally get AA unless there's a big Old South fight in a multiplayer. I feel comfortable. Now, if you're just someone who's going one big state at a time, then New York's not a great state for you because you should not go up to that third pip until you get a bonus, basically.
Right.
Um,
Up to the third, you're gonna get a bonus from doing. Yeah.
Yes, and I would much rather I'd actually much rather chase in Florida if I know my person's gonna go in there. It just, totally depends. I rarely open Florida anymore. I used to open Florida a lot, especially when swing was 200. Now that it's a little bit more, that it's just the math. I would just rather kind of know what I need versus have to overspend in Florida.
Right. And I will say, I think that Oasis kind of strategy, I mean, that's been like the meta in this game since it, came out. And with Michigan changing to a swing state, I think it even gets even stronger because then, you have, I mean, it's just that there's so much crossover now, with those states. So you talked about the California thing. I remember too when Arizona was two swing states, so you could get it in like two turns. You could get swing in two turns, which the game was a little rough when that was going on, but I'm glad they fixed it. So this is
I,
more of
I
like
will push back also though, yes, Old South has always been a very strong strategy, but I don't think that people really correlated just because you can get it on turn two and then you can expand. But there's so much other correlation now in the Old South that there's not really a good opening that you can get a clean entry, like you're guaranteed to get it uncontested.
right.
You have the oil in Louisiana. You have Georgia, of course, with a lot of stuff. I think classic Old South, the Louisiana, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, 125. That's great. I think it's been more shifted from Maryland down to Georgia. So you've got three swing states and then, a state like Louisiana. But all of those, combinations, there's a chance you could have conflict.
Yeah.
So yes, if you if you're able to get it, but some people just aren't very good at predicting what their opponent's going to do, and then also they're not very good at playing from behind. I'm comfortable playing from behind just because I let my opponent get the bonus first. That doesn't mean the game is over. Now, if I
Mhm.
spend a lot trying to get it and he spends a lot and he outmaneuvers me, now I've got a problem. But if
Yeah.
I'm able to, hedge my bets a little bit, or so I just think that's something that, again, I said this earlier, but you do not need to put all your eggs in one basket. Like the game is a 12 to 18 turn game, or whatever the average is.
And I think that's what I see too, with newer players, because I have friends and stuff that, downloaded this game and played, gotten them into it, which is good. I see the player base has, been growing. I think we're up to about 12,000 in the lounge, something like that, which
There are
compared to
50,000 active accounts. In the month of February, there were over 28,000 players who played at least two games.
that's awesome. And I think what I see the same thing from newer players. All eggs in one basket for sure. Not knowing when to pivot and then kind of having tunnel vision, about one, simple group. I've played with friends and they show me they, what would you do here? And say, well, what would you do? You tell me what you would do. And that's the number one thing is, well, they're going to take this, they're going to take that. And I'm thinking, have you ever thought of maybe just going somewhere else and then back to that bonus in a few turns?
Mm.
Because sometimes people can forget, okay, they're going here. And I know that you talked about that in our video, a few years ago of I'll lose the south for a couple of turns and then I'll just come right back and try to get it after. Because sometimes they can, since you pivot, they think, okay, now I can pivot too, and come back and get it. So, and that transitions perfectly into this question. These are kind of more of eh, less general questions and more specific. So,
Okay.
let's say you do take the Old South in a couple turns. You don't have any conflicts, but this person is smart and they are not saving all their money, but they have a good amount of money. I see. So the exact question is: let's say you take Old South in two turns. The opponent one pips all the Old South states that you have, and has enough to take at least two of them, and like two of the important ones. What would you do? What is your without getting into specific states?
Sure.
This kind
So
of question
do I have an Old South bonus? Am I a neutral candidate?
you do, yeah. We'll give you like 15 to 20% Old South bonus.
Okay, so let's say that I have, and I only have access. I turn one. Let's say I went the new way. I went the Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia, Louisiana.
Yeah.
It depends. It on my opponent. If they're Republican, a Democrat. If they're a Democrat, I might maybe protect Virginia. I definitely am. I'm definitely going to spread out. I'm not going to not just all defend. I could totally do a pivot to swing states if that's the combination I went to, and I could double pip Florida and then maybe go Michigan, Arizona, Nevada, just so that even if I lose my Old South money, then I'll be able to get the next turn swing states, which is $100,000 bonus, and a little bit more impactful for, if it's a Republican candidate, most likely, than an AA, which would be the natural progression after Old South. So that would be, the thing. But it again, the number of pips that I would defend would be probably depending on who my opponent is. But what I would say is that I do know that the human behavior side when they're doing a steal, when they do, you'll pick up tendencies throughout the match. Um, I probably would one pip defense one state and then maybe not defend or go all out if it's valuable like a Virginia. If it's a you know if I just have a feeling that's what they're going to go for. But again, I'm never going to put myself behind the eight ball, especially on turn three.
And you don't want to again put all your eggs in one basket and just start closing things down, because that's just an easy. If you're doing that, the player's going to say, "Okay, fine, you can have your Old South. Have fun spending all your money there." And I do that, and that's the same thing that I've noticed. Playing the game a long time, pick up on tendencies. Are they just a one pip past me kind of person? Which, by the way, is extremely frustrating when you don't defend when just one pips past you. Do they go two? Some people go three. I haven't really seen people go more unless they're just going to close the entire state down. And there are people that are like that. That's how they take. They just close it all out. Or if you one pip one of their states, they go all out on it. So and I've noticed what good players, and I'll do this as well. If I get a defense at the second pip, or I take a state on the second pip past them, when I think they're going to try to defend a state, I'll go to the third one. Or you know what I mean. I'll kind of switch up my strategy so it's not so predictable. So I think that transitions as well into kind of the next question is how do you decide? And again, a lot of these questions without specific, playing a game and saying, what would you do here? A lot of these might be kind of general, but we can kind of specify them, with the answer. How do you decide when to pivot? So, of course, Old South to swing states is a very popular pivot, but is there a hard turn where you're like, okay, I need to make my decision by this turn, or is it kind of feel it out based on what, the other person is doing?
No, there's never a hard turn. No. Now I will say that you should always have a running count of how many electors are locked in because you need to know when a ballot is coming. 100 EVs locked in every state being entered into. I find myself pivoting more when I have a pure cash advantage. If I have national groups, if I put my opponent in a position where he has to decide, or she, most likely he though, if they have to decide, are they going to make a critical defense or are they going to pivot? Like, are they going to go for a defensive Old South or are they going to pivot up to New York? Now they can't get to the third pip in New York because they haven't entered it yet, so they're not going to get another bonus with that. Same thing with Florida or whatever other big states. That's generally when I'll pivot. But I like to have my hands in the important states so that I
Mhm.
can have lots of options, specifically in a 1v1. If it's a multiplayer, like I don't have to have my hands in every single state because I'll get there eventually. But you want to have access to the states that are important to you. And you also need to have access to enough EVs that you survive. In a
Mhm.
multiplayer match, if you're an Obama and you're trying to get New York and California and you're just saving, 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 you finally save up enough money to get the bonus. You go all out for California. Now you're up to the eighth pip and you're up to the fifth pip in New York. Well, guess what? There's a ballot and you're out.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing too. It's and multiplayer games, and you're talking earlier. When you can definitely tell when you're playing new players because you're doing your strategy, but you're trying to put a pip here to see how they defend, and then they're letting one person, like you said, get New York and California uncontested, and of course it's someone like Hillary who has $100,000 town and gown bonus and $135,000 high tech, but it that can get frustrating, and I think also seeing because I knew you're a big player in multiplayer. I only play it. I feel like I'm Daniel Smith on that Facebook comment. We only play if it's like to our advantage because we don't want to be sweating. But I think how other people play definitely impacts your strategy. If you and I think that's kind of the difference between, a good player or players that are, kind of top tier is players that are kind of newer or good at the will go in with this strategy and that's their one strategy. And if that is screwed up, what do I do now? And I think that's how you kind of transition to talk about pivoting and transitioning here from a good player to a much better player, an elite player is you have to play based on your opponent's strengths and weaknesses as well. And getting a bonus sometimes can actually be less important than preventing them from getting a specific bonus that's really good for them. So we have a couple of new comments. DJ said that he was in a game now with RFK and Bush 04, but Base Capitalist just jumped in and I like his profile picture with the gag flag. Can you overinvest in national groups? That's the first question in the chat. So let's throw it up to
Yeah.
you.
So for sure, and DJ is a loyal member of the chat, so salute to you, sir. Good luck. I hope you're Bush 04 because RFK not that great of a candidate in the
No, you
game.
you better have something in the bag if you want to pull that one.
Yeah. But yeah, base capitalist, thank you so much for the question. Can you over invest in national groups? The answer is absolutely. You need to find out mentally what the break even point of your investment is. So, when you invest pure cash into the national group, there's a couple things that can happen. One is the opportunity cost that you're giving up. You're letting your opponent potentially have access to the map and the board first so they can dictate where the game goes. So um, I'm comfortable playing from behind, but you really have to have practice with that in order to be proficient at it. I would say. Also, you need to know if it's a multiplayer or a single player because multiplayer games tend to last longer. There's more turns. The ballot does come quickly, though, typically as early as turn 7 or turn 8. That's rare, but I would say about turn 11 is about the average for a 4-player multiplayer is at the first ballot. And if you are investing in a group that you don't have a big bonus, you're probably not going to hit that break even point until turn 7, turn 8, depending on the math. And so, you don't want to be the first one eliminated. And the good thing is, if you're going, national groups, that'll help you later on, but you have to survive. I do think that, it's okay to go 3, 4 national groups if you are, a player like Inflation Mary, if you have, when I was doing Donald Trump 2020 back with my Pence VP 50% evangelical go gun lobby and evangelical, I would occasionally follow up by going big conservative, especially if like 2 other players in the multiplayer would clash, like in California. They're wasting $200,000. I call that clash equity, and so that's money I spent somewhere else. And even if I wasted and they wasted it, at least I'm going to get money back from my investment. So I think it totally depends, but if you're playing a good player who has state group bonuses and you're not contesting them in any states and you're just solely going for national groups, they're able to compound bonuses, go Old South swing AA or go, manufacturing, ag, oil, and then have pressure in California before you can really do anything about it. And so again, I would just be mindful of the board and kind of going back to risk. You don't want the strongest player to get too strong. So how can you put a balance on it? Yes, and then I didn't even get into the fact where someone could contest your national groups. Just because you get to the 4th pip and you can get that bonus, that doesn't mean you might not have to lose that bonus or defend that bonus. um, I'm pretty anti defending national group bonuses in multiplayer. If someone wants to come after me, then I'll just hope that player gets eliminated. I can inherit that bonus back.
Mm.
Um, I will defend. It depends, but I tend to lean toward the not defending on that side. But I would say rule of thumb. If you're not comfortable playing with national groups, if you can't get it by turn 2, I just would leave it alone.
And kind of picking up on that, kind of popped in a kind of new question on this same thing. So you talk about going gun lobby evangelicals, and I think we've talked about, the game, groups wise tends to be more favorable to Democrats, but I feel like the national group bonuses, I feel like there are more Republicans that are evangelical gun lobby bonuses, and you have Abbott that can just boost both by 20. Democrats don't really have their Greg Abbott, you know what I mean? And they have Crooked Hillary, they have, you know, RBG, they have Madeleine Albright. So they have people with the high women's movement, but those people don't really have kind of the same, gun lobby as in youth vote, that they would need to kind of compete. So if you are going to go gun lobby and evangelicals, and you know that your opponent um, is probably going to touch Old South, instead of doing 2 pips in each of those, and I've tried this, and I've noticed this has been, at least for me, a successful strategy. I'll do 1 in gun lobby, 1 in evangelicals, and then, like, 1 pip Georgia, 2 pip Virginia, or try and do something to kind of, because if I can get that clash and then get evangelicals next turn and they still don't have Old South, then I'm in the driver's seat. What's your opinion on doing something like that?
Oh yeah, I do that all the time. And with the math, the way it works, the 250 per turn, you have to have 125 for Old South. So that gives you 125. So you can still go 1 pip in big conservative. You can still go 2 pips in evangelical. You can do what you just said: 1 pip in gun lobby and evangelical, and classic Old South, or Maryland, South Carolina, Mississippi, Georgia, that 125. So you've got options, but again, looking at your candidate, your profile, the stats, but also your opponent, and kind of having an idea like what do they need if they have one national, or do they have two? RBG is most likely going to go women's movement. you
Yeah,
know,
right,
versus someone else who might have 35% in all three of them, like a Crooked Hillary. You don't know. So
right.
I want to give a quick thing. We got 9 people in the chat live. Thank you so much. If you guys could do hashtag Easter so that you guys do not miss out on the giveaway later at the end of the stream, that'd be great.
And Romeo just asked, when did we both start playing? So you go ahead, and when did you start playing this game?
I started playing in 2016, but I started really playing in 2017 when I actually knew how to play. Like when I first started playing, I didn't even know how to even play. And then
Right.
I was like trying to find the rules, and no offense 270, but the rules sucked and there was no
Mhm.
like tutorial or anything. So I don't blame anybody who played and then quit because they didn't know what was going on. Like,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
was
it,
because I started in 2016, and it's funny when I see, obviously, somebody who's a new player, I'm like going my strategy. I'm like, all right, let's go Old South. Let's maybe start New York if I have, a Hillary or somebody good. And they're pipping like on the first turn, like Montana and South Dakota. And I'm thinking, what are they doing? Then I'm thinking, if they just got this game, and to be fair, again, like you said, no knock on 270, but the rules aren't even accurate. I'm pretty sure the rules say to get a state group, you have to get like over half, like take the total EVs, divide it by 2, and get one more. And that's not how they calculate it. It's based on the money. You have to get $5,000 more than half of all the money spent in that group. So I don't even think the rules are accurate. So even if you were reading them and taking notes, you might, and the rules on primary mode. Oh my gosh, who is going to remember unless you have that down in your head of the primary calendar? I never know. I have to literally go check the rules when I'm in a primary mode game to see which states are going to be up next.
Mhm.
So yeah, I would agree. I think things have gotten better. I'm glad that we have a community so people can at least join and go to and say, hey, I need help getting better at this game. I have no idea what I'm doing. So it doesn't kind of discourage people of being like, oh, this seems like a great game. Then they play and they get somebody like you or me, and they're like, I have no idea what I'm doing. This person's getting groups left and right. Um, so yeah, I started playing in 2016, but I think I really kind of got into it. I think maybe like a few months actually before COVID hit. So very end of 2019, very early of 2020 is when I really started. I would play games before then, but I didn't have like this set strategy. I didn't really know. I knew the thresholds, but I didn't really know best ways to pivot to go other places for those thresholds. I think 2020 is kind of when I really started getting exponentially, I guess, better at the game based on before it. Base Capitalist said colluding Trump can be a terrible candidate or it could be an amazing one. That is true, but man, those state group bonuses are crazy. I think he has like a James Madison style Latino and African American penalty. Which, by the way, what did James Madison do according to 270 to just make him so much worse than every other founding father on that? I have no idea. But do you have any insight on that, or was that just
I
like
don't. So if Sapun is still in the comment section, give a shout out to Sapun. I think he does a great job He gives influence on the stats of the candidate. I do think that James Madison is slightly overrated as a president, not as a founding father, but as a president.
Yeah.
We did a candidate draft not that long ago, and I was surprised how early he was taken. But I still think I crushed that draft. I don't know if you saw that or not. I want to say shout out to Liam. Liam is also in my class, so good day, sir. And then we have a couple more comments here. I do want to address Joshua Bowens. He said, "Can we see some 270 gameplay?" I would love to do a live stream where I can play and share. So if you guys know Tyler Demora, he is the king of the North on Twitch. He also plays 270. He's one of my good buddies. Lives in Massachusetts. He and I spent 2 hours today trying to get my setup so I could do a live stream playing him or playing whoever, and I just do not have the technology and the Wi-Fi at the moment. It was pretty sketch. So I have, as a teacher, I have school computers, and that stuff is blocked. So I'm working on getting a setup where I can stream live and play and talk, and having the right cords for that. But that is coming in the future. Um, I it's not a money thing. It's just kind of a lack of I've never done that before, and there's so many options. So my goal is to do that, especially a lot as we get closer in the school year, because the 2024 election's coming this November. And I've been saying all my streams, my goal is to get to 5K before election day, just subscribers, just to kind of grow the community, because I do think there's a lot of potential to grow the game during this election cycle. And I mean, it's not a make or break for the game. I have no financial stake, or I work with the owners and the developers a little bit in the game, which is pretty cool. But I do think that they need to capitalize on this opportunity, and hopefully, I can be a way to do that. But also, we can have fun and to make some good content while we're doing it. So, yes. Um,
And I've talked to I know kind of when I came back and rejoined the lounge, I was texting Alexander and talking this and that. And I was like, I got to reach out to Borman. I haven't talked to him forever. And then we were trying to message on an account I wasn't even on anymore. And I was like reaching out. I was like, Brendan, where you at?
So we
So
we both we both have made it because we both have had people impersonating us in the lounge or in the game. There was
that's
a there was a person as Brendan Borman in the I wouldn't even, so after COVID, I played a lot and I was really invested. I finally won a big tournament, the round table tournament, and I just kind of got burnt out a little bit, and this update brought me back. But there
mhm.
were people messaging me who I built friendships over. This community is an awesome place. 12,000 strong. There's several hundred people that I've communicated on YouTube or Discord, and but they were getting mad at me because this guy was like playing and quitting, and I'm like, it's not me. I haven't played 270 in like 6 months or whatever.
I've gone through
So,
my things on there. We won't go into all that, with my gosh, me and Jason's rivalry and how that all happened. But yeah, I remember like there was somebody who was like being Lone Ranger, but they put one space after Ranger, and people thought it was me. And I was like, no, somebody literally like cropped the video and like looked at the spaces and like was like, no, it's not Nathan. This is not his account. I was like, thank you. I saw Supun jumped in. That I think Madison's stats came out before I started doing the stats. My question, yeah, definitely, he came out a long time ago. Candidate would you like to be added? I was going to ask that. That was like in two questions. I had two more questions. The next one was about state chasers and money savers, and then the last one was who do you want added? So we'll jump to who do you want added. I'll let you
okay.
answer. Give an answer.
Yeah. So I two things, and they're both probably not going to happen. I would love the create a candidate feature where you have a custom candidate, you win 10 matches, you get to allocate points toward a bonus. It's capped, so you get to kind of choose how you want to build your candidate. Um, like to me, that just makes a game fun where there's the component of having that freedom, like the my player on an NBA player, or even Call of Duty, you customize your guns, or what there's just it's lacking that little bit of something that would bring people and keep people there. So I think I've talked to the developers. It's not a functionality; it's a cost. They're trying to get a virtual currency. They're trying to do several things with the game, and they're actually really close to a partnership with Fox News, which would be crazy. Yeah, Fox News would put it on their website. There would be the debate questions be sponsored by Fox News. So it's something that we could look toward in the future, and hopefully that would give the financial boost. But and also, I think that uh, there are other people we could put in the game. The presidents, absolutely. I think those are, they're working on that. And my history people, we've got some more students in the section, so this is pretty cool. There are some people we'll talk about at the end of this chapter when we get through the American Revolution. There's some founding fathers. There's some important people in history that I think would be cool to have it in there. But I do appreciate like the Harriet Tubmans, some of those maybe not political figures, but those American
Right.
people. I do think they could add some international people, which would help the game a little bit. I'm not a big fan of this Easter egg. Not gonna lie, I think it'd have done better if they had made it the Easter bunny,
It is
or not had a cracked egg, or not had creepy little arms.
That is weird. That thing lives in my head. I'm scared. I like the Cupid the art rendering. I always wondered. I'm like, I don't know why they call it Easter egg. It's literally a bunny coming out of an egg, and bunnies don't. Is that how that works? No, they don't come out of eggs. No. So yeah, I always thought that was a little odd. I was like, I don't know about this one. But hey, it is what it is. I think, speaking of, you said Harriet Tubman. It reminded me of, I think John Brown would be an interesting candidate. I think he would have like an extremely high gun lobby, but an extremely high African American bonus too. He could be, because he of course probably he might have like Washington has like a 60% agriculture. He might have like a 60% like gun lobby bonus or something crazy. I think there's some things to do. I agree that prioritizing, I guess, getting all the presidents in the game, I think should be prioritized. I think in if you follow UK politics at all, there's a couple of UK figures in there. Tony Blair's in there, Boris Johnson, Liz Truss, Rishi Sunak, the current prime minister, is not in there. I think if Labour wins that next election, to the extent that, I mean, it looks like it's going to be like a historic seat flip. I think Keir Starmer, their leader, might be thrown in the game, or it might be a good idea. Um, I think for
I,
me,
s- I see you, Ozzy. Sorry, he's
no, you're good. You're good. I see. I know they're kind of blowing up in the comments here. See, you're like I told you, you're very popular in your classroom community and the 270 community. I would like to see more of, not maybe not on the candidate side, but I wish we could sort candidates. I wish we could pick favorites. I wish you could see your
That's
stats with
coming. That's
Google can.
coming. That's coming. So it's gonna be a vertical shop, 5 favorites, and it
That'll be
should be
nice.
out pretty soon. So I guess every time they
Two.
do an update, every time they do an update, it costs like $2,000. So they're trying to not have an update like every week. They're trying
Yeah, let's get
to
all that stuff in one update every like 6 months, right? Or something. Yeah.
yes.
That's wild. I didn't know that. You mean like to go through this certification, like for the App Store and stuff like that?
And I redesigned the whenever you log into the screen where it says like select, like pass and play online. I redesigned that whole screen. I'll have to send you a picture what the new one looks like. That
Oh
comes
wow.
out that comes out the same time.
Oh, that's awesome. All right. Do you think they'll ever get like stats for individual candidates, like your win percentage with this person, or is that like
No.
if? Yeah. Okay. That would
They
be cool.
Yeah. And it resets actually. So
Oh, it
that's
does. Okay.
why I used to have access to the backside of the server whenever there'd be like cheating for in-game tournaments, and it resets the first of every month. So
So I guess I will ask that question though as well, unless you want to address any of the comments, any
go
questions.
ahead.
What is your strategy against? I know a lot of new people ask this question. They say, "Man, this is frustrating, and I can't beat this." And honestly, I don't like playing against it either, especially if somebody is doing it and they're competent doing it, right? I think that's the most difficult thing, is a state chaser or money saver, and typically that comes with the national group. You typically can't successfully chase, unless you're just leaving them uncontested in their state groups and they can just save money. But how do you deal with that? And of course, that's going to be kind of a specific. What do I do here? But generally speaking, is it defend? Is it spread out as much as possible, but also don't run yourself too thin? What's your thinking on how to deal with that?
Hashtag Easter. Thank you, Liam. Good job. So I've made numerous videos about how to beat a state chaser, how to beat a saver, and I encourage you to check those out for actual advice in the moment that you can take and run with. Generally speaking, going back to the not, committing so much money, there is a point in the game where it changes from a I have to have more money and more bonuses to I need to have more electoral votes. And you need to be cognitive of when that switch happens. Um, I think that there are rules to live by. You don't want to not defend, and you don't want to consistently not defend to where your opponent can like one pip you or pick you off easily. So being unpredictable is the best, and sometimes I defend, sometimes I don't defend. You typically want to use all of your bonus money, especially if you're at risk of losing it, whether that be expanding to a new state or defending. And then, like I said, it's human nature to um, there are some type of people who are more aggressive or more conservative, but they like to end on the same pip. And sometimes someone will go all out or not go for it. One pip, it just depends. But if you have a candidate who, if your next bonus is Latino, you might not want to lose Illinois. If it's a pivot point. So again, you might go up to the eighth pip or the it depends on where you are, but if they go for it, they go for it. You can mathematically eliminate their pure cash minus their bonuses that apply and know what their maximum threshold is. And so just knowing that, of course you can't do that in a 1 minute timer game. It's more of a feel. But you just got to make sure you have access to enough states, access to pivot, defend when you can, and but blocking a ballot is really important, or getting a ballot is really important whenever you are not the one who's saving money. If you're playing against a saver, you don't want to give them ample amount of attempts to come at you. You
Right.
want them to make a choice. And
You
if
want to
you
limit
get
that.
yeah, and but at the same time, if a ballot is not advantageous to you, what I will do is I'll leave one state empty. I will double pip an empty state, and I will single pip an empty state just so I can block, a ballot push.
So I have an interesting question. This is a personal one that I didn't have written down, but you were talking about multiplayer in the ballot. I obviously know, and I'm sure you'll know far more on this than I do. I was going to answer a question somebody asked
I
how you.
won. Sorry,
I
bud.
I think it was though how to download it. So I think yeah, it should be it's on the App Store on Android. It's also on the App Store on iPhone. You can just type the number 270, or you can actually type out 270. So it'll pop up. It'll have a little blue logo with the check mark. Um, so my question to you was, and this is like I said, this is most of these questions I kind of already know the answer to, but I kind of want people to have all these kind of in one spot. But this one just popped up, and you're talking about multiplayer. So I know the threshold is 100 EVs locked down. Every state, pushed in no conflict to start a state. Everybody's has you know their their eggs in the basket, at least in one state. What is the threshold for a multiplayer game if it's like a 5-person game on that first ballot? Because I was playing one the other day and I could have sworn there should have been a ballot and there wasn't. So do you know, is there a defined known threshold in a 5-player game for when that first ballot comes?
Yes, but before I answer that question, Liam's asked me at least twice this question. He asked me what my plans were for Easter. Thank
Oh,
you. I want to just say that I am going to the Mathewson, which is our local church service here. I will be doing that. I'll be hanging out with my family. We hopefully are going to have an Easter egg hunt. Having a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, they're going to, have so much fun doing that. So Easter is one of my favorite holidays. We've got the beginning part of baseball. The St. Louis Cardinals and their Kansas City Royals both lost on the opening day, but
I'll tell you
that's
today they
okay. The
lost.
Masters is coming. We've got March Madness. So as a big sports guy, I love this time of year. But just having some time away from school, spending some time with some family, and probably eating way too many mashed potatoes because that's my favorite food. But yes,
I love mashed potatoes too, and I
thanks, Liam.
I hate the normal peeps, but like s'mores peeps. I don't know if you've ever had them. Are like amazing. I love them. So it's the only peep that I can actually eat and enjoy. Um, but yeah, so I think that's all that I had questions wise. Did you want to go over anything else, or how did you want to
Yeah,
transition this?
no, we can. So while you were talking, I tried to load another screen and it said end stream. So I didn't want to do the giveaway thing. What I will do is I will when there's a it's a I've never used it before. Tyler talked me through it, but I will run that, and I will post a screenshot in my community post so you can see who wins that, and I will reach out to those people who win. And the 270 merchandise. I don't have that yet, but in the coming days or next couple streams, I'm gonna try to give away some 270 merch, which will be kind of cool. I got myself some Ronald Reagan stickers for free one time, so that
Where does
was
it
kind of
go,
cool.
everybody? Yeah, let it be known.
Yeah.
But
But anyway, yeah. But I was going to ask you thoughts if you had to pick the 2024 election forecasted today. I made a video today using 270 where I looked at the polls from 538, looked at some other polls, and just forecasted what I think would happen if the election was today. Who do you think would win? And if you have a state by state or any kind of diagnostic, let me know.
well, let's be real. The election is going to be focused on what, like 6 or 7 important states: Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, and Nevada and Arizona. I think what is the election is going to be, decided there. So I think, and like you said, we both have different views, on politics. So I try to give an unbiased view, as hard as that is, but I can at least admit that I might be biased, right? So I think it seems like as month goes by, the consumer confidence in the economy is getting better. From a personal standpoint, I hope that it's good enough for that to be an issue, because we hear about abortion, we hear about immigration. I think at the end of the day, economy is going to be the number one issue for most voters. Um, I will say, in the Republican primaries, there are a large number of people, voting against Trump. Will they come home to Trump? Probably. I don't know. I think the issue he might have is in the suburbs. I think that might be a big issue. And in states like Michigan and Pennsylvania, that's going to be important. I think if the election were held today, I don't want to go state by state because we'll be here all night. But I think I would give the edge slightly to Joe Biden, but I don't know. I think it's going to be a close election. I think it's going to be closer than 2020. I think, you know when you're an incumbent president and everything is not all peachy, especially when it comes to the economy, that is going to weigh you down. Even if you have all these other accomplishments, and or you say you have accomplishments, that is what people care about the most. Am I better off than I was 4 years ago? And people, the general public, typically, they have job, they have kids, they have family. They aren't really interested in, okay, what policies did this person do, how did this change. Their question is, am I better off, now than I was 4 years ago? And I think isn't that the age old, who came up with that? Was it Reagan that came up with that question? Is that right, the first one to use that? um
I was reading the comments. It was the first one that said what?
which one was it? What'd you say? Oh, the first one that said, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? I think that was Reagan that used that first. I'm not sure.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know that one. That sounds like a Reagan thing. So
Yeah.
I would agree with you. Like, just kind of piggyback while sorry, I've got thoughts are rolling, and sometimes you got to get in my head while you can. Um, the uh, the suburbs, absolutely. I think that's going to be determined on turnout, how many, like, who's going to be motivated to actually go vote. And I do think obviously the Democrats and Joe Biden have a huge advantage economically with money, raising money. They
Yeah.
also get early votes, and they will bank a lot of early votes. And if you look at Georgia, specifically North Carolina, there have been a lot of movement over the last 3 election cycles in just banking the pure number of votes. It made an impact in Georgia. North Carolina, really hasn't been that close. I mean, we're talking 2%, but some of those suburban counties around Raleigh or the metro areas, they Democrats have hit that number, but they've not hit the minority numbers in those states.
Right.
And so, I know the map is changing, and we've said that, about Florida, and we said that about Texas, whatever. But I do think that Biden does have a lot of places that he could resonate. I do think that Biden also has the advantage of he's already beaten Donald Trump once before. So I don't think that, he, not that he'd be afraid, whatever, but I do think that that aspect of it is interesting. But then, when you say, well, they've each been president before, and now you can compare what 4 years of Joe Biden looks like compared to what 4 years of Donald Trump looks like. And then you've got a difference of opinion, and it depends on what your core values are. Are you looking at the
Right.
economy? Are you looking at abortion? Are you looking at, gun rights? Are you looking at XYZ, healthcare? And so I do think, though, from a Trump voter perspective, that also the January 6th thing's gonna make a huge impact because he hasn't been on the ballot since that's happened. And
Right.
I know people that have voted for Trump both times and that they're not going to vote for Trump a third time. I also know people economically who have really struggled. More in blue states, and so maybe it doesn't matter as much, but maybe so like for the popular vote, just as a
Right.
uh, but who have not voted for Trump ever and are just they're not supporting the Democratic candidate, whoever that would be, and that could be third party, that could be Trump. I feel like there's a lot of undecided voters, and again, it comes back to what you said. Are they going to go home to their party? Are they going to vote down ballot? Are they going to you know, not vote. There's
You're right.
lots of but I do think in 2016 the Supreme Court played a heavy role in getting people to who were could not really stomach Donald Trump, but wanted to not have Hillary Clinton be president. That was a heavy influence. 2020, I do think COVID and other things helped, but there wasn't that. It was more of a unification of the Democratic Party, who was unified as not maybe so much for Joe Biden, but anti
Trump.
anti Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And so again, 2024, there's maybe still that anti, but is it less? I do think the Democratic base has shrunk. I think there's less overall Democrats, and they can't count on African Americans and as much to the percentage,
Right.
So again, it's not a total vote; it's the Electoral College, and we'll see how it shakes out. But yeah,
It'll
I
be
do
interesting.
think.
It'll be
Go ahead.
interesting. I just said it'll be interesting, and I wonder, last time that those two guys ran against each other, they actually updated their bonus. What, like a few months after the election, based on kind of how they performed. I don't know if they'll do that again. Maybe not, because I mean, obviously if Trump wins, he could not run again because he's won. He would have two terms at that point. And of course, if Biden wins, he's not. I mean, if he'll be alive when he's done. I'm saying that as a Biden voter. See, I can be funny. I can be tongue in cheek. So I don't know if they would do that or how they would handle that. I don't know if they would like do a boost, or a change candidates, but I think it's always cool to kind of play a political game while the political season is right up in front of us. So it'll be interesting for sure. Every election is in its own way. So
Yes, and I do think the Senate could flip to the Republicans this cycle, and possibly that could be more down ballot. I think Montana will be red. I think that Manchin's retiring in West
yeah,
Virginia.
that one will be safe. Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting because there's that. But again, we could speculate all day long, and a lot of these people either are in seventh grade or are not here to listen about the election. So
Price is a candidate for Easter. They talked about adding religious candidates, but they're like, no. I feel like that was talked about for like 2 days, and they're like, no, because they were going to put like the devil as like the all negative candidate. uh,
the coronavirus.
yes, yes. Supin asked us if we were Trump, both one of Trump's advisors. So I guess if you were his advisor or I was his advisor, who would we suggest he should pick as his vice presidential running mate? Mine's gonna be biased because I'm gonna pick somebody who would be horrible. No, I'm kidding. I'll pick somebody that I think would be good. But you go ahead if you want to take that.
I have a couple people that I really like. I do think that Ramaswamy would be polarizing, but I think he'd be great in some role, in some capacity. Um, I I I've always been a Ben Carson fan personally. I don't know from like a strategy win the election if he's the best person, but I think he has a level head, and I think he understands Trump, and I think he would kind of push back when needed, but also be a good loyal person to him, and so I think that would be a good choice from a GOP perspective. When you're choosing the vice president, that can matter. I mean, I really wasn't worried about Biden. I disagreed with Biden a lot politically, but I didn't know about Kamala Harris.
Mhm.
I was kind of, I was hoping, something would not happen, and we had a Kamala Harris presidency like that. That was scary for me,
Mhm.
and so again, you have to keep that in mind. But if you pick someone from that home state, could that help them in the general election? If a woman versus a minority versus a evangelical, you know, I think his team will do a good job, and the longer that he doesn't have to make a decision and that he can kind of draw this out, he gets free publicity from it.
Mhm.
He gets more people and gets more buy-in from his base, which the base, like the Republican base, is also shrinking. You've got a big divide. You've got the anti Donald Trump, and you have the MAGA. So it's interesting, but I think the safe pick is Ramaswamy. I think that he could go out on a limb. I'm going blank on her name. She's in the game. The lady who stood up to the Ivy League people.
At least,
Yeah. I
yeah.
think she would be fine. I think there's a. I would not pick DeSantis. I would not pick
Yeah.
DeSantis.
I think he said that he won't do it, and I wouldn't pick Marco Rubio either because what's that going to help you? I mean, it would help you with Latinos and Hispanics in Miami-Dade County, but you're going to win Florida. I mean, come on, let's be real. I'm a
Yeah.
Biden, but
And
not. Don't.
also, yeah, and also, if you're shaking the hand of tiny little Easter egg hands, you could have
Yeah,
tiny Marco Rubio hands.
little tiny Marco. I think I would go with. I understand Ben Carson. I think Tim Scott. I think to really kind of capitalize. Trump seems to think that he's going to do far better with African Americans than he did in the past, and how much of that is true and how much of it is not. I don't know. They have their internals, and obviously the people who are advising him have more access to things that me or you will have. So I would probably say Tim Scott, but I don't think Ben Carson or Ramaswamy would be, horrible. I think they would be, I mean, kind of right up the alley of what he wants. I will ask you. I don't know if this is the last one, or you have time for one more, but do you think, just as a Trump voter or just as a voter, it's 88 charges that he's facing now because three of them were stricken in Georgia. Do you think that between now and the election, he will? Because I know his New York trial is starting in April. The judges kind of set that as a hard deadline, and okay, we're not moving it back at all. Do you think that he will be found guilty of any crime before the 2024 election?
I don't know. I have no clue. I do know that as of now, he hasn't been. I do know that just like whenever he was debating against Hillary Clinton in 2016, and he was talking about the tax code, and and he's like, you know, well, Hillary changed the tax code. If you don't want me to use it, but you're not going to do that because all of your donors use the same exact rules. The whole New York deal. I don't know the ins and the outs of that, but that just is so weird all the way around because it was changed the 11th hour. We've got Kevin O'Leary, the Shark Tank man, was out there saying how I just think it's a bad look for New York.
Yeah.
I think that that particular case, it's hard to not look at it from an outside perspective and go, there's got to be something political with this.
What's going on
Now,
there? Yeah.
generally, when there's smoke, there's fire, and I am going to be the first one to say that Donald Trump is not the perfect person. We are all flawed,
Right.
um, and so it's basically what's important to you, what can you stomach, and I think it's also telling that a lot of world leaders do not want Donald Trump to be president again, and and if a lot of world leaders, I probably like that because
Right. Look at this two ways, like you said. Some might say that and think, "Oh, that's horrible," but someone else could think, "Well, actually, that's good because that means that, it's for America first," and it kind of goes down that line of, what he's, saying. So yeah.
yeah. But anyway, again, I do think that yes, something could change between I am not like my vote like I could I could change my mind. I do plan on continuing to support Donald Trump, but there might be facts that change between now and the election that could sway that.
I didn't
I think it's important. I think
hold
it's
your feet.
important to have an open mind. Sorry, but it's also important to you know like I've got young kids here in the chat, so I want to make sure like it's okay that you and I differ. We can talk
Right.
civilly about it. You shouldn't make fun of someone for what their beliefs are. You should learn, whatever's important to you may not be important to somebody else. That's the important of this country. We each get to have a say. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, I just would say that.
And it's true. I mean, life experiences really kind of dictate somebody's views, and those can, change over time. What the joke is, if you're not liberal when you're young and conservative when you're old, then something's wrong with you. Something to that extent. I've kind of had a different, I guess, political evolution, but it's crazy. I mean, what people go through and their lived experiences and what people they love and care about around them go through really frame kind of their worldview and things going forward. And it does take sometimes really big changes for that to change. But I'm glad that, like you said, in such a divided country, I'm glad that we can sit here and have conversations. And I think you're a great guy. I have no animus towards you whatsoever. I mean, I think if more people were like that and they could separate, this is what we think to this person's a bad person, it would really, really, I think, help us overall. And I think we're doing a good job of setting an example for the students that you have in the chat of ways to approach your friends and any kind of disagreement, whether it's political or otherwise. Seeing someone's point of view is not a bad thing. And hopefully they can see yours, and that's empathy, and that creates, I think, a better world for everybody to live in. So
hmm Absolutely. Well, make sure last call here. If you have not done hashtag Easter in the chat for the giveaway, make sure you do that. Nathan, it's been a blast to have you on here.
oh
We'll
yeah,
have to do it again sometime, and maybe next time we can do it while we're playing a game of 270. We can you
yeah,
can
yeah.
you can try to talk and like distract me. I go what?
You can kick my
You
butt
might
in front of everyone.
yeah you might actually beat me then.
Yeah, we played a couple games. I think we played one stream, and I beat you by like one EV a long time ago. But yeah, it was. We got to do it again sometime. It was fun for sure. I like catching up. It's, like I said, it's the first time we've done this in 3 years, so I missed it. It's always fun talking to you.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you so much. And if you ever want to collab, just hit me up. Happy Easter, wherever
You
you are. Thank you for making this part of your day. Thank you for if you've not yet hit the subscribe button, do that. And then enjoy your Easter. I know you will, Nathan. And
Yep.
I'll give you the final word since you're the guest.
All right. Yeah. No. Happy Easter, everybody. 270 is a fun game. It's exciting. It's changing. It's ever changing. A lot of players. Apparently, a collab may be coming soon with Fox News. So that'd be cool. But yeah. Happy Easter, everybody. Stay safe out there, and we'll see y'all later.
Peace.